Hello everybody, welcome to the Rock and Crystals channel, and today we are talking about crystal wire wrapping. It's something that I absolutely love. I didn't think I would love it, but then I got into crystal wire wrapping, and it's this meditative state of uncertainty. It's like invention as you go, at least the way I did it. You don't really know what you're transpiring towards, you don't really know how to get there, but you kind of accomplish one wrap at a time, and it's almost meditative because your concentration is just into the wire wrapping, and each thing's something kind of new, and you're creating as you go. And it actually reminds me a lot of rock climbing. I was really into rock climbing for a while, and the interesting thing about rock climbing is that you never really know exactly how to get up the rock. You have to go from hold to hold to hold and sort of find your way up, and I found wire wrapping to be very much like that. I mean, I'm sure there are advanced masters out there who set out a plan and create something that they intend to create, but if you're not an advanced master, very much like myself, you might really enjoy just the progression of creation when it comes to, wire wrapping jewelry. And this is a great way to wear crystals as well. Crystals, which have been wire wrapped, are some of the most essential forms of jewelry making. It's just so simple, it's so honest. You wrap a stone in a wire and you suspend it from a piece of jewelry. Like, that's just so pure. I just really like something about that aspect of it. You can wear pretty much any stone, but it works best if the stone has a hole drilled in it first. This will give you a place to attach your wire, but it's not necessary. There are many ways of attaching wire to a crystal or a stone that do not require a hole to be drilled, and that's actually one of the things that I really liked about wire wrapping as well, is that you have to figure out how this particular crystal, which is, with its unique shapes and grooves and awkward, or let's say not awkward, but rather irregular shapes, how can you use those shapes to then create an attachment to this without necessarily even using a hole? And that's part of the progression of wire wrapping. You can make a pendant using just about any color of wire. There are a variety of different types of wire, from very thin wire to much more thick wire, and these can be interesting to use in and of their own, just on their own. You can actually create interesting pieces of jewelry just out of wire, especially if it's thick wire. You can create interesting spirals and interesting shapes just out of this thick, let's say approximately 2 to 3 millimeter size wire. Some of the wire you can get is quite soft, some of it's quite strong, quite firm, some of it's quite thin, some of it's more thick. Typically you'll want to do a little bit of research, I suppose, and find just the right size. I think 22 gauge was a pretty nice wire size. 24 gauge is also pretty good in terms of a nice size to wire wrap crystals with. But then, like I say, you can actually create interesting pieces of jewelry just out of the wire itself at larger sizes. And some of it is, of course, sterling silver. Some of it is, of course, sort of a gold plated, and you have all these differing colors as well to choose from. To wire wrap, all you really need is some wire, some stones or crystals, and some pliers. Some needle nose pliers are probably as much as you really need, and some wire cutters as well. There are a variety of interesting types of pliers that you can use to craft and create different wrappings, different shapes and wrappings with your wire. But I found that largely all I used was the needle nose pliers, and these are great because you can start off your wire wrapping oftentimes on the tip of a needle nose plier, and you can create a bit of a spiral circuit, and then from there you can kind of use the needle nose plier to create interesting shapes just by using that needle nose as the starting point for wire wrapping. Anyways, first cut a piece of wire about 1 foot long using the wire cutters. Now the length of wire is going to vary a lot depending on what sort of complexity you want to get into with your wire wrapping. You won't need very much wire if you just plan to wrap a couple of wraps around the crystal and call it a day, but if you are wanting to create interesting spirals and interesting shapes and potentially even attach multiple crystals together, which is something that you can do, you probably want to choose a fairly long piece of wire to start, because it's easy to cut off later, but it's not so easy to add onto later. It's nice to use a single long piece of wire, I find, although you can certainly attach cut pieces as well. But a part of what I liked about wire wrapping was actually just using one single piece and just seeing where it flowed, seeing where the design took me. Anyway, next wrap one end of the wire around the needle nose pliers about 3 times to make a spiral. When the spiral is the size that you like, you can add that to the stone. And so essentially what you're doing to start typically is creating that attachment point. Add the stone by feeding the wire through the hole, if you have decided to opt on a hole, of course, so that the crystal spiral sits against one end of the hole, and if your crystal doesn't have a hole, you can place the spiral on the one side of the crystal that is flatter. In wire wrapping, you will then want to hold the spiral in place and begin wrapping the wire around the crystal in a spiral formation around the bottom of the crystal to create a place for the crystal to sit in. Usually it takes about 2 or 3 turns to attach the crystal to the wire, and you'll want to be careful about over tightening. That was a mistake I made initially, is that I initially wanted to create a well fastened piece, but what I ended up doing frequently was tightening just a little bit too much, and then you snap your wire, and then you have to start over again. So you don't actually have a huge amount of wire strength when it comes to spinning that wire around and creating that attachment, so you'll just want to be careful in terms of how tightly you create that connection. This is essentially wire wrapping. Of course, there are many great tutorials online for specifically how to do it, but I wanted to touch briefly today and just share with you my actual enjoyment of this particular practice. Like I say, it's meditative, it's explorative, it's creative, it's not mind-numbing like television, but do you know how your mind sort of kind of floats away when you're watching TV or you're working on something that's kind of quote-unquote mindless? It's got that quality to it, that meditative quality to it. However, it combines that meditative, detached, floaty away sort of feeling with creativity and creation. So now you're not being mindless like a zombie watching TV or doing something that you're not really interested in. You're actually in that sort of meditative, mindless place, but you're coming at it from a place of creativity and interest. So it's a really nice practice. I highly recommend wire wrapping if you have never tried it. It's inexpensive. You can actually pick up some crystal quartz shards from the Rock and Crystal shop, link in the description below, and those are great to start with because they're so interesting. Each one is a little bit different, a little bit unique, and every time you wrap a new crystal quartz shard, it's a whole different journey, a whole different experience. All right. Consider dropping a like on this video if you liked it. It really helps this channel to grow, and subscribe if you're interested in learning more about crystals, because we are going to be talking about different crystals every single day. And if you're looking to buy crystals and gemstones, check out our Rock and Crystal shop, linked in the description below. It definitely helps to support this channel when you shop for crystals at our shop. And lastly, we are doing a crystal giveaway from our Rock and Crystal shop every time we upload a new video. You are allowed to enter into our crystal giveaway contest. All you need to do is leave a comment and let us know what you love about crystals. Also, be subscribed to this channel, and we will choose for every single video that we upload a random winner from our commenters to receive a lovely prize from our Rock and Crystal shop. You may enter into as many contests as you want. Every single video is a new contest, and I hope to see everybody in the next video.